Hi, my name is Brantley Sawyer, and I am a virtual specialist for the Georgia Department of Education, and I'm also a third grade teacher at Pine Ridge Elementary. Pine Ridge Elementary received our STEAM certification in January of last year, and that was after about 4 years of us really plugging in and digging in and doing the work. There was a huge cultural shift at our school that we all had to buy in and do, and that buy in did not happen overnight. It took a lot of strategic change and changing the way that we planned our lessons, how we met, how we worked with our special area teachers. And there have been a lot of various trainings from either myself or some of my colleagues that are also virtual STEM and STEAM specialists that you can find on the Georgia Department of Education community page. So if you're looking for more information on that, make sure that you go to the link below and you check those trainings out. They've been wonderful, and I wish that this resource was there when we were first starting out. It has still been very fruitful for us now, and we're a certified school. And that's the main thing about STEAM and STEM is that you are never done learning. It is cyclical, and you're never finished. Your work is never done. Today's training is a little bit different than ones we've done in the past. It's not teaching you one specific part of the STEM and STEAM journey. It's really hoping that you will learn from things that we've done wrong in the past. You're going to hear from other members of the Pine Ridge Elementary staff, and as well as members from the New Mountain Hill. And that is another STEAM certified school in the Harris County School District. And you're going to hear from them about their biggest failures and their biggest lesson learned, which is incredibly valuable information, mainly so that you realize that you're not alone. We know that feeling of starting out with STEAM and STEM, and you hop onto Pinterest and you think you got it all going right, and then all of a sudden you realize, like, this is completely wrong. I'm doing this completely wrong. And how can I teach something to my students that I don't fully understand? We get it. We've all been there. You are not alone. And so the purpose of this training is to help you really grasp that concept that you're not alone, and there is a complete state full of people who have been where you are and are here to help you. So I hope that you are able to learn from our mistakes, hopefully better prepare yourself, but also just kind of relax and go, hey, everybody else has felt this way too. And in addition to hearing from people who have been at their school from the start of their STEAM journey, you're also going to hear from teachers who joined our staff in the middle or towards the end of when we were reaching certification. So they really had to learn quick, and that's some valuable information for people who are maybe in that same position, or maybe you're adding people to your faculty for the upcoming school year, and they would like to hear that perspective. So I hope that you enjoy this training. Like I said at the beginning, make sure that you join that community because there are some valuable trainings that are done. They're all free. It's, like I said, wish that this was around when we first started. So don't sleep on those trainings. They're incredible, and I hope that you enjoy.
Jessica Burns. I'm a second grade teacher at New Mountain Hill Elementary School, and I would like to offer a tip for your STEAM or STEM journey. It's also a lesson that I learned. One day I was doing a design challenge. The students needed to recall information that they have learned about sundials, and they were going to create their own working sundial. So they wrote down materials that they needed, and I said, okay, go. So all the students, all 24 students, were creating a sundial at the same time. Next thing you know, one student says, I need more tape. So I ran over and gave them more tape. As that person's telling me they need more tape, another student needed a toothpick. Theirs broke. I didn't really get to enjoy the day and get to hear from my students about their designs because I was all over the classroom trying to give them more tape, trying to give them more toothpicks, trying to give them whatever they needed. So my team and I got together and we said, okay, they already understand reading centers, they already understand math centers, so why not do STEAM centers? And going from everyone doing one design project at one time to now one group is doing that design project, and then the timer goes out. Then the next group does the design project. And while that group is doing a design project, other centers are also STEAM related. For example, we did a pollinator STEAM day, and we had one center was coding of a bee bot, and the bee bot went around the grid going from flower to flower until it was back to the hive. Another center was creating a pollinator puppet and then producing a pollinator puppet show to show their understanding of how pollination works with pollinators. Another center was using a local artist and having her inspire them from her pieces of art to create a piece of art on their own about pollinators. Another center was something from Mystery Science, which is a great resource, by the way. And they were using Kool-Aid and seeing the process, using different colored Kool-Aid powder and seeing how that process and how it pollinates flowers that way, and they're able to see the different colors. So each center is STEAM related, but I was able to enjoy the day and actually talk to each group as they were going through each center, and it was much more calm and much more enjoyable than everyone doing a design creating their design at one time.
Hey guys, my name is Devin Brown. I am a kindergarten teacher at Pine Ridge Elementary in Harris County School District. I have been teaching for 15 years. 1.5 of them have been at Pine Ridge. I had 14 years experience where I was beforehand, and coming to a school that was getting their STEAM certification the same year that they was getting it was, to say the craziest, if the least. It was definitely a learning experience. I learned a lot. It was a little bit overwhelming to be brand new and to be at a school that was getting its STEAM certification. So I felt like I really had to keep up with the pace. I did not want to be the reason why this school was not going to get its certification, because I was a newbie and I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know what CER means, and so it's very overwhelming. As much as I did beforehand to try to prepare myself, nothing really worked unless you're inside of it and you're actually teaching it. Where I was beforehand, when I found out that I got the job at a STEAM school, I started doing STEAM lessons and activities just to kind of prepare myself. But again, all that stuff kind of went right out the window when I came here. So my biggest takeaway and my biggest tip to anybody watching this would be to really insert yourself wherever you possibly can, to educate yourself as much as you can on what STEAM really is and what it means. So collaboration with your other grade level. I learned so much from sitting down with them, all the meetings, all the planning. My duty was not to create the STEAM lesson plans during that time. However, I would go next door to my neighbor's room and sit down with her and think of these ideas, because that's what really helped me. And then, even then, I still couldn't wrap my brain around it. The whole PBL and the whole process. It is a process. It's a full-blown project. And here I was as a newbie coming in thinking that it was just an activity. Boy, was I learning a lot. So really just inserting yourself, collaborating, planning, again, sitting down with her, my mentor teacher, and having us do these lesson plans together. But really, whenever I would stand up and I would actually teach my children, was when you could see the aha moment on my face also. So even though I was teaching my own kids about STEAM, I was learning about it as well. I mean, all of our meetings, they could talk about it as long as they wanted to in front of me, and I did learn a lot. But again, I never really wrapped my full brain around what the whole process is until one of our PBLs, our investigative research questions, was answered and the whole process was over with. So I learned a whole bunch from actually implementing it, doing it myself, integrating all the instruction. Again, collaboration, pair up with your grade level. The other thing would probably be not to kick yourself in the bottom if something goes wrong. As a kindergarten teacher, your babies come to you and some of them can't even write. So to give them a STEAM journal and ask them to draw an image and all you see is scribble, it's really hard not to fix that. So I had to really take a step back and realize that these STEAM journals are for them. It's their documentation. It's their data. It's not my data. So I really had to keep my hands off of that. And then at the end of the year, I was able to see their progress from even something like their handwriting to how it looks now. So keeping my hands off of their STEAM journals was a task, and letting them do it 100%. Glows and grows is a big one, so that was definitely a grow for me, is keeping my hands off of that. And the other one I would have to say would be, like I said, I didn't want anything to fall back on me being the new teacher at a school that was getting its STEAM certification. And I felt like I was, even though we got our certification, I'm the first door on the right-hand side for kindergarten, and during the day of our STEAM certification, here's 10 people walking into my room, and my kids are on the floor and they're involved in their project, and my heart's just racing. And of course I was asked, there was something on my wall that I'm not sure exactly what it was a work sample or example of their STEAM, I'm not sure exactly what it was, but she asked me if something along the lines of what was on the wall, if it was also in their journals. And of course it was. I mean, I had taught it, but I remember saying no. I don't know why I said no. I think because I was just nervous. And that was something that was documented on our feedback. That with our feedback, again, there's always going to be glows and grows, but I kicked myself in the bottom for that for about 6 months. But thank God we got STEAM certified, and it wasn't my fault. So it's just a process. I'm learning every single day, even though this is my second year teaching at this school with STEAM. I love it. I think that it is one of the best ways to teach an education, because you can incorporate so many different activities and lessons just that are out there. That's all involved with STEAM. So yes, the biggest takeaway would be to collaborate, plan, insert yourself where you need to be, especially if you are a newbie. And if something goes wrong, don't kick yourself on the bottom, because it's a learning process. You learn from it. So I hope that helps.
Hey, thinking about STEAM and some of the things that we learned the hard way here at Pine Ridge was, don't feel like everything has to be done in a certain amount of time. Give yourself grace, pace things out appropriately, and don't try and put things together that don't go together. Don't try and force a science standard to mesh with a math standard when they don't naturally go together. My suggestion would be to think about your long-term goal in your PBL and what you want to get accomplished. And then from there, think about your investigative research and what science standards that would go with, and then look at the math standards. If you can start with the science first and then work towards getting the math integrated in, I think it's going to make life so much easier. And the easiest part in all of it is the collaboration piece with your special areas teachers like art and music. And once they know what your plan is and what you're working towards, it's very easy for them to look at their standards and see what would fit. And that would be a good activity to also integrate in to cinch the whole STEAM piece together. So don't overthink it. Try not to overstress yourselves on it. Just go slow. There's not, a rush to get anything done at a certain time, and think about what makes sense with putting the pieces together, rather than saying, okay, here's a science standard that's got to be taught here, and here's a math standard that's got to be taught here. Think about how they would naturally web together and not overdo it or overthink it. Good luck.
Hey, I'm Alexis Wells. I teach first grade. The biggest tip I can give to you starting the STEAM journey is to give yourself grace. For me, the biggest lesson I had to learn when starting STEAM was to accept failure. I like to teach a lesson and it turned out perfectly and it wraps up with a big pretty bow on top. Well, with STEAM, I had to learn that failure is okay, and I had to learn how to teach the kids that it was okay not to succeed the first time or even the second or the third time, and that was okay. During our first year on our STEAM journey, first grade decided we were going to grow loofahs. We had dreams of producing so many loofahs. We were going to be giving them out to all of our community partners. We were going to sell them. We were so excited. Well, that first year, none of our loofahs made it. They either died of rot, or we planted them the wrong time, or we had a fungus grow. And the kids were so disappointed. We as teachers were disappointed. But then we turned it around and realized that this was such a great opportunity. The students were able to research with us on when we actually needed to plant the seeds a whole month earlier, how to get rid of the fungus so it wouldn't come back in our soil, and what to do if we saw rot on a leaf or what to do. So the second year, we actually produced 10 loofahs, which we were really excited about. But still, the kids were able to go and research what we need to do. How could we make our trellises better? How could we make our garden better? And then this past year, our third year growing loofahs, we actually had a decent amount. So we were very excited. But we were still able to go back. The students were able to go back and decide how we could make even next year's production better. And the kids decided to actually use seeds from the loofahs that we produced this year. So don't let the failures turn you away from STEAM. All the many failures we had led to so many opportunities to problem solve for our students and to solve real world problems, which is what it's all about.
Good afternoon. My name is Cindy Bullock and I am a Pine Ridge Elementary teacher. I teach 4th grade. As we began the STEAM process, we started out as a STEM school, which of course is science, technology, engineering, and math, and became a STEAM school with incorporating the arts. One of the things that I learned was that collaboration not only takes place with the students, it also takes place with the teachers. As a grade level, you learn to find PBLs, or project-based learning ideas that are applicable to your area. My team, we were working on agriculture, and one of the things we discovered was that it was okay for our PBL to change. The first year we tried composting, didn't quite work. The second year we tried barn swallows, because we have a large barn swallow population, and our students did a lot of research. They did quite a bit of designing a home to relocate the barn swallows to, hopefully to attract them. And the barn swallows just found other places to nest. I know. Then our third year, we tried our aquaponics, which was successful. And we started growing herbs in our aquaponics system. We have an individual aquaponics system in each classroom, and we also have a large aquaponics system in the front of our school that has a larger tank of fish. The students were able to take care of the plants, take care of the fish, learned a lot. There's a lot of science, a lot of engineering, a lot of math, and of course the arts, because we did a Giataku. So my advice to you is, it's okay if it doesn't work right the first time. Don't worry about it. Keep pressing on. It will work. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Virginia McCullough, and I am the art teacher at New Mountain Hill Elementary School in Fortson, Georgia. And we have been a STEAM certified school since 2017. When we began to implement STEAM education, when we were pursuing certification from the Georgia Department of Education, probably began in about 2013, we decided on an overarching research question for the campus, for all the students to investigate. This is, how can we help sustain our agricultural processes through relevant, integrated, and hands-on learning opportunities? We are in a rural area, so this served our purpose. This was a little eye-opening to me as the art educator, that I was going to take an investigative research approach in the art studio. Our standards, our visual art standards, could be easily incorporated into this process. But I was not used to the engineering design process in the art studio. And the engineering design process, as we know, includes failure. Now, failure leads to perseverance, innovative solutions, and critical thinking, not only in my students, but in myself. But it still was an aspect of STEAM that I was very comfortable with. I was used to being a content specialist. I was used to imparting a skill set to my students, techniques and theories and aesthetic intelligence that didn't have much to do with failure. In fact, Bob Ross, as some of you may know, an American artist, said that it's in arts, there are no failures, just happy little accidents. This was our perspective in the art studio. But STEAM changed that. One specific example that I can think of is when the fourth graders were building their clay vessels to plant kale seeds, to grow, to harvest, to prepare, and to serve to our school. One, I guess that was in the spring. They were working with our FFA coordinator to do such, and I was gonna take our processes of ceramics, which we do in fourth grade, hand building coil pots. We looked at different artists, mainly Maria Martinez, and they constructed and built a kale vessel, or vessels such as these. And I've been doing this for years in the art studio. This is part of my art standards. Well, we had never turned it into a vessel that we're actually gonna grow and support living things in. I didn't know how to incorporate appropriate drainage, or how much dirt or how much soil needed to be incorporated into the vessel for it to be appropriate for the seeds. I'm not a gardener. Even though we're ag-based here, I had a lot to learn as well. So when we made these vessels, we didn't have the holes properly installed. The technique of building the vessel was good, but actual using it for the purpose that we were creating them for was not executed well by me or the students. And then we put them into a greenhouse that retained all the heat in this clay that we had fired. Well, the kale did not thrive. In fact, they didn't grow at all. And this was disappointing to me and the students. However, they were able to go back and figure out what we have done wrong, or what we had done wrong, and what we could do better in the future. And one of those was not to put these in the greenhouse. We decided that the greenhouse was way too hot to grow kale, to cultivate kale. And so though they made these clay vessels that in the past has been sent home as this aesthetic object that they loved, it was part of a failed experiment on how to grow this. And what did that mean to me and my students? I'll be honest with you, I didn't like it. Well, I started thinking about Elliot Eisner, who was like the grandfather of art education. And he taught, and I learned a lot about this in my education myself as becoming an art educator, about the 10 lessons that the arts teach. I wanted to share those with you today. I was going to run through those very quickly because I think they're applicable to STEAM education in general, even though they're from an arts perspective. Number one, the arts teach children to make good judgment about qualitative relationships. Unlike much of the curriculum in which correct answers and rules prevail, in the arts it's judgment rather than rules that prevail. Number two, the arts teach children that problems can have more than one solution and that questions can have more than one answer. Number three, the arts celebrate multiple perspectives. One of their large lessons in that is that there are many ways to see and interpret the world. Number four, the arts teach children that in solving complex forms of problems, there's seldom a fixed answer, but there's a lot of opportunity to look for other answers. Learning in the arts requires the ability and the willingness to surrender to the unanticipated possibilities of the work as it unfolds. In this example, failure. The arts make vivid the fact that neither words in their literal form or their numbers exhaust what we can know. The limits of our language do not define the limits of our cognition. I didn't have the language to teach them how to form a clay vessel out of ceramics that was going to be appropriate. for the garden, but we did figure out through the process that there were other ways to form this for it to work. Number 6, the arts teach students that differences can have large effects and that art oftentimes traffics in subtleties. So does STEAM education. Just tweaking the engineering design process just a little bit can go from a great failure to a great success. Number 7, the arts teach students to think through and within a material. All art forms employ some means through which images can become real. Well, this is also like our engineering design processes or the investigative researches that we do. They have to think through and within that material. In this case, it was kale and how to grow kale appropriately in ceramic vessels. The arts help children learn what cannot be said. When children are invited to disclose what a work of art helps them feel, they must reach into their own poetic capabilities to find the words that will do the job. If I asked any of my students to explain their vessel, even though it was a failure in the gardening aspect or the ag aspect, they still might talk to me about what it meant to them to build this vessel out of clay and to work with their hands and work with the material from the earth, or how Maria Martinez informed how they created this kale vessel. Number 9, the arts enable us to have an experience we can have from no other source, and through such experiences to discover the range and variety of what we are capable of doing. Now, I have seen this firsthand through failure. They take that failure, they may be upset at first, but then they take it to inform what they do in the future, and they have this sense of empowerment and ownership over their learning that they didn't have before we were implementing STEAM here in the art studio. And number 10, the arts position in the school curriculum symbolizes to the young what adults believe is important. And I think it's the truth, the same applies to failure in STEAM education or in any education. It's hard for us to accept that we're not these sages on the stage, that we are not these experts, that we are not necessarily delivering content anymore in this 21st century learning society, that we are here to facilitate and moderate. And when we hit a wall, we have failure, that's actually a good thing because it teaches us to problem solve along with the students in a way that empowers them and gives them ownership. I've learned that in the art studio, and I hope you're learning that as well in your STEAM endeavors.
I hope that you enjoyed hearing from all of those different educators today, and if nothing else, I hope you're at least able to walk away from today's training going, okay, I'm not alone. I am not the only person that feels this way, and that is just the biggest piece of reassurance that we felt when we started talking to other people, and that is the benefit of the Georgia Department of Education's online community. So make sure that you go back to that very first slide where I'm talking and you join that online community, because that is a wealth of resources from teachers who are in the trenches and doing this every single day, giving you their advice and their tips of things that they have learned from implementing STEM and STEAM education. And also, it's a great way to connect with content area experts. This is a resource that we would have killed for when we were first starting out, and now we are diving into and reaching out to people at our school, and we're STEAM certified. But if anything, you always learn that you never stop learning. You as the educator never stop learning, especially once you start integrating your curriculum and you become a STEAM certified school. There's always room to grow. So make sure you become a part of that community and just take advantage of these free trainings that they're doing, because so many of your questions can get answered just from those trainings. But if you have a question that was not answered from today, I have put my email below right there. Please feel free to reach out to me. I am happy to answer any questions that you have. And if I can't answer them, I will do my best to find the person that can answer them for you. Or you can leave a comment underneath this video on the online community page, and I will get to you that way. But I hope that you're leaving today feeling a little bit more relaxed. STEM and STEAM education is awesome. We've had the best time with it. Yes, it's been a learning curve, but it's just been, the work has been worth it. And we know that once you kind of push through that learning curve that you'll see it too. So I hope you enjoyed it today, and thanks again for tuning in.